All right, Flagler Weekly, we are back, and thank you so much, Any Given You. My friend Michael Megan, we tried to do this last week. I made a huge mistake. There was no sound. I don't know what happened, man. It was crazy. I want to blame the iPhone, but, human error.
Yeah, no, that was heartbreaking because I think we were on a good 2-hour episode, if not a little bit longer. We talked about all sorts of great stuff, and then just big goose egg.
Right, and then followed up, even worse, followed up by such a great week of football.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. No, fantastic week of football. It's so good that that college football is back. And thank you again, Flagler Weekly, the crew over there, yourself, everybody, for not only all the mentions and everything else on the social media space, but also the the opportunity to come back on and talk football, something I love and something I'm passionate about.
Definitely, man. I want to, maybe we don't have to do it every week, but I definitely am going to want to get you in here and really rack your brain, especially on college football. So I feel like, we could just jump right into it. Let's talk about last week. I feel like you're beating yourself a little bit, but I think you had a great week. You made me some money.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that I did. And also not just yourself, there were also some of my old buddies that I serve with that every football season, I don't hear from these motherfuckers for months on end. And then every football season they come creeping slowly, trickling into my messages, into my DMs, and asking me questions. They're like, hey, what do you think about this, with a screenshot of, their lineup or whatever. And I'm like, I don't hate it, or man, fucking don't do that. I already did it. Oh, well, shit, man, I can't save you, man. Like, go with God. But
don't do it. I already did it.
Yeah, I already did it, man. What do you think? Well, shit, I think you're going to lose some money, but what do I know, man? Like I said, I'm not always right. But, been doing this thing, this Any Given You thing for 3 years now. And again, with it started off as just live streaming on Facebook is all it started off with, right? And you were one of the original members of the Any Given You Facebook group when we decided to do that. And then, of course, the podcast launched a year after we did that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but like I said, I digress. Doing this for 3 years now, and I'm telling you, we can go back. The beautiful thing about social media, one of the beautiful things and also one of the ugly things about the internet is it's out there forever. So yeah. I've got the receipts for the calls that I've made for the last several years about college football. And, I would say that we enjoy success consistently north of 60, 65, 66%, sometimes even riding a hot hand all the way up to 70% on our bets. So
nice. Mm-hmm. I definitely see it. And it's funny because I've been seeing, and last year I started sprinkling them a little bit in. You might post your predictions, and then I'd put a little bit of sweat on you because I'd post that I bet on a couple of them. You're like, oh shit.
No pressure, man. No pressure. As long as I don't have Big Vinny from Vegas showing up wanting to break my fucking thumbs or something over hilarious. A bad bet, I'm all good.
No. So this week I took USC. I took them with the minus, and I took them head up. And then I also took Notre Dame with the minus. So I won all three of those. I think the only one I lost Florida.
What did you do with Florida again?
I bet Florida was going to cover.
Oh. You should have just done the money line on that one, man. Because yeah, no. So speaking of Florida, we knew coming into this year, Florida was going to be one of the most untalented Florida squads that we've seen in quite a while, as the trajectory of that program has just sort of, decreased since the Meyer days. It's kind of interesting, right? They hired Urban Meyer. And then, so it was a good one. And then three more coaches with a last name started with M, right? You had McElwain, you had Muschamp, and then Mullen. And then over the years, that sort of shift again, in perspective and how the programs are going to be run. And again, the recruiting leak that comes out of the state of Florida recently, as a lot of our, best recruits in the Sunshine State are picking other programs to go to. It's really hit Florida quite hard in the middle of all those coaching kind of regime changes. And I just kind of knew coming into this year, I talked about Auburn and the problems they had last year. It's very similar to the same problems that this Florida squad has this year. So I did not like the Gators at all in that spot going to Rice-Eccles Stadium in Utah.
That's crazy. So let's talk about Notre Dame real quick. You called that one very well.
Yeah, Notre Dame Navy. Yeah, so that one played out pretty much exactly how I thought it would. Just plain and simple, Navy dominating a smaller, slower, weaker Service Academy team. Definitely established a line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Navy didn't really have anything for them. And then I was more inclined to the under in this game, which it just cashed for us.
Oh, yeah. It was 48.
Yeah, it was close.
It was under. I cashed on that too. I was like, bro.
Yeah, you did cash on the under. And so it's that new rule change, right? The running clock, except for the last 2 minutes of each half. So, given the style that I knew both of these teams are going to play with, I really liked the clock to go ahead and assist and give us that under in that one.
That was awesome, man. USC, let's talk about their defense, man. They won, but it was kind of ugly in the beginning.
Yeah, USC's defense. So I didn't catch them. Now, remember, they played this week 0 game. They played another game just this past Saturday as well. I didn't get to catch that one. The stat line would suggest that the defense took a step forward, but I think the opponent took a step back in Nevada. Nevada's not as good as San Jose State. I don't think in the Mountain West. I think San Jose State's a top half Mountain West team. The defensive concerns that you saw, I'll just make it real quick. Bad tackling, all right? Bad angles of pursuit. Seemed like lack of effort on a lot of plays, a lot of series, busted coverages where the defense did not understand in some key situations where their help and their leverage was at. So you saw players running free through zones. You saw the ability for the quarterback to bring it down in man coverage and scramble with absolutely no spy. These are things that are coaching issues. I will say that USC's defense has more dudes on it this year than they've ever had, right? They got guys like Bear Alexander and Anthony Lucas and Mason Cobb to really bolster that front seven. They have dudes. They've got athletes. But from what I saw, the coaching concerns are what scare me the most for the USC Trojans. I need to look at the tape of them against Nevada, but again, just because the scoreboard doesn't reflect when you're playing less talented teams doesn't mean those issues aren't still there.
Right. I definitely agree with you on that.
But the offense is a truck. It's an absolute truck. So
it is. We're gonna get back to that one when we get to the Colorado. Let's talk about Georgia. I said I wasn't too impressed with them. I don't understand how other teams USC's putting up 66. They're only putting up 48. Then UT scored on them. I think that was a bad look. You know what I mean? But obviously, you guys probably had to do third, fourth. Probably have some high schoolers in there.
Yeah, I would say that even that scout team defense that was out there by the end of the fourth quarter that UT Martin got a score on, they're probably doing extra conditioning this week themselves just because that's just not the standard at Georgia, right? But I will say this about Georgia once again. When you are the king of the jungle, right? When you're the alpha male lion, you don't really concern yourself with the opinions of the sheep, right? Mm-hmm. Georgia has never, under Kirby Smart, they've never really been concerned with style points in these sorts of matchups. They don't really care. They don't really care for them in these types of matchups. What I do take away from this one is Kirby always uses these games and these spots to try to take an opportunity to get better at something, right? So, whether that's putting the defense in tough situations, whether that's, putting the offense in certain situations, he almost uses it as a situational scrimmage. Remember last year they played Samford, again, an FCS school out of Alabama. They only beat them 31-0. all the boo birds came out. Everybody's chirping. Why didn't we win 79 to whatever? But again, that's the same team that absolutely throttled and smashed Oregon in Atlanta. It's the same team that shut down the Tennessee hype train last year. When they want to play, when the lights are the brightest, I'm not worried about Georgia until they prove me otherwise.
I can see that. That makes sense. I'm going to skate by Michigan. I still like them. Those are my boys. Ohio State.
Yeah, Ohio State. Yeah, that was interesting. That was a call I missed on. I missed on this last weekend. I definitely thought that Ohio State would come in there, and we were just used to, the same Ohio State product that you see almost every single season. And this is a spot where they usually drag a helpless victim all over the football field and get all the points they want, right? Indiana bowed up a little bit in this one. I think, again, now you have a new starting quarterback in Kyle McCord. It didn't look terribly sharp. And then Ohio State, Ryan Day making the mention that this year offensively, he and quote said, we're going to look a little more old school. Again, I don't think that's a shining endorsement of your quarterback situation. And I said in preseason that Ohio State and Alabama remind me of each other quite a bit. I think both of these teams are going to be very fine defensively, and Ohio State had a good day on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, obviously, but offensively, still figuring some things out, especially in the quarterback room. They both have talented wide receiver groups, but the quarterback situation is what gives you a little bit of hesitancy and pause. And Ohio State actually did struggle a little bit in that run game in this one as well. So a little bit of question mark, but I think they're going to be all right. Sometimes you got to have a little bit of a snoozer.
Yeah, they only scored twice.
Yeah.
I know you spoke about Penn State and you like them. How do you feel about that game?
Yeah, Penn State got us the cover with the late score there. What I'm taking away from that one is the question mark again at quarterback in the offseason for Penn State was Drew Allar. He comes in, goes 21 of 29 for like 304 or something like that. Looked really good on the tape, right? It wasn't that West Virginia wasn't getting some pressure on him. They were. There was some pressure. So if you want to take away a little bit of a concern, perhaps, maybe it's that Penn State offensive line and pass protection. And the run game wasn't exactly blowing like anybody's expectations out of the water or anything like that. It was a decent day from the offensive line. But Drew Aller, is a 6'6", 240, 50-pound frame or something like that. And there were times I was watching him that it really did remind me of like a Ben Roethlisberger with what he was doing, because guys were coming up and hitting him and sort of just bouncing off of him as he was kept his eyes downfield and made some throws and made some plays, really putting some durability and some escapability on display, his ability to break some tackles. Defensively, Penn State still handled business just fine. And believe it or not, West Virginia is one of the better offensive lines that they're actually going to face this year. So the fact that they were able to hold them, under 17 points, basically take them, put up goose eggs in the first and third quarter, and really kind of control that game. It looks good for Penn State, especially with, again, Michigan and Ohio State not covering against their opponents. You try not to overreact too much to week one, but this was a good Power 5 matchup here, and I think we learned a little bit about Penn State there, especially in the stat line. Good teams dominate the fourth quarter, and if you look at that, it's 17-8 there, and they did a good job closing that one out.
Awesome. Stop me if you see anything that you really
actually, So I did real quick. Once again, Washington, one of those Pac-12 teams that put up a 50 burger over the weekend. There are some prolific scoring offenses in the Pac-12. I mean, we've got 5 of the teams put up 50 points or more. Almost all of them put up 40 points or more, something like that. I mean, again, USC putting it on Nevada, UCLA. Not one of those teams that put up 50, but again, appears to have a defense, and Dante Moore at quarterback seems to be the way ahead. So, impressive stuff from him. And Washington, no different from any of these other teams, winning against a good group of 5 program in Boise State in pretty dominating fashion. Michael Penix out there spinning it to those wide receivers, pretty much picking up where they left off last year. So that one stuck out to me a little bit.
Mm. We don't have to get in the Texas game, but I heard Archie Manning slipped a third string quarterback.
And I'm not surprised about that, to be honest, with
He's
Arch Manning.
like $10 million.
Yes, but I did say something about Arch Manning. He played private school ball at Isidore Newman. That's a small school. Again, was it like 3A private, like I think Catholic school in Louisiana? There are public school teams that would have ragdolled that team. I don't think he played the kind of I don't think he played the kind of competition that really had him game ready right off the bat coming in here.
Too.
What's that?
He looks small to be the Texas coach or quarterback. They had Vince Young.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a freshman. He's going to put on some size and some muscle and everything else like that. But once again, yeah, they've got a loaded quarterback room there in Texas, and yeah, so I'm not surprised he makes the slip to third. He's going to have to bide his time and learn how to play quarterback at the college level, at the major college level. So,
Do you see him transferring? I can see him transferring.
Who knows? Who the fuck knows nowadays? I couldn't tell you.
That portal's looking nice, boy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. He might go to coach. He might go to Coach Prime next week. I have no clue. So,
speaking of that, I want to get into that, man. Where is that one, man? Here it is. Here it is.
Yeah.
Here it is. Are you ready to say they're going to be over 500? This is your last chance, Mike. This is your last chance.
No.
You don't believe that. You don't believe that.
Do you believe? Do you believe?
Let's go to Colorado's schedule, man. Let's look at this right now.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
Because TCU,
I have explanations for why I think so, but we can break it down. That's fine.
Nebraska, they're gonna win. Colorado State, they're gonna win. Oregon, USC, they're gonna win. That one's iffy though. I wouldn't bet on it. They're gonna win the rest of the season after that. Utah might give them trouble. I don't think Utah wants to see Travis Hunter.
All right. So let me break this down for you. Let me explain to you why I think Colorado goes 4-8. All right. And I have adjusted Colorado up from my 3 wins that I thought they were going to get. I bumped them up another win because they got one already.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Okay. When you break down that TCU stat line, really what separated those two teams on that competition was 2 turnovers. There were 2 red zone turnovers. Okay. One of which obviously Travis Hunter gets the interception on the pass out to the flat route, and then Chandler Morris throws a very ill-advised pass, and he makes a great athletic play, snags that, takes the momentum out of that drive, which is a huge killer. And then there was one prior to that, was actually a Colorado returning starter, one of the 3 Colorado returning starters from last year.
Number 43.
Number 43, yeah. And I'm blanking on his name because, again, all it is Sanders, and Hunter. So, even though they have a bunch of players all over the place. But once again, here's the deal with that. 260 rushing yards still given up by Colorado in that contest, right? And there were times where TCU was flat dominating and controlling in that run game. And for whatever reason, offensive coordinator Kendall Briles, who came over from Arkansas, he was again with KJ Jefferson last year, for whatever reason, he decided to get away from that and start chucking the ball a little bit more. And it was kind of head scratching. And once again, head scratching that you were trying that side of the field with Travis Hunter. So again, I think there were some miscues that definitely cost TCU at certain times, right? Mm-hmm. Here's the thing also with Colorado, when you bring in 68 new scholarship players onto the roster, it's again, not the same team that it was last year at all. So there's a lot. What's up?
You can't even watch film.
You can't. No, it's a total question mark, right? It's a complete question mark. You have to go back and look at Kent State film because that is the OC at Colorado now. He was the head coach at Kent State last year, which they run that veer and shoot style offense, sort of that Tennessee runs, but with a little bit of I saw some wrinkles in that one as well. as I was watching this one go down. They could not run the ball. Okay. So that's the basis of the veer and shoot. They did not do a very.
They had 510 passing yards and 45 rushing yards.
Yes, and I think it was 2.8 yards per rush attempt, and then I think it's 1.9 when you adjust with sacks. So here's my thing. There are going to be games, there's going to be situations where Colorado is going to have to run the ball. The fact that they could not run the ball on a 3-3-5 stack defense against TCU that did not tackle well or consistently at all in that competition. I mean, they look like ass crap when they went up to go make a tackle. Only 3 returning starters on that defensive unit, and the 3-3-5 is friendly for being able to run it. So when you cannot establish that line of scrimmage, you can't run the ball. You can win shootout games like this. You can win some shootout games like this. There's going to be teams that are going to get suckered into that with Colorado, and that's exactly what happened with TCU. They got suckered into running a race with them that they weren't going to be able to run. They weren't going to be able to win. There's going to be other teams that are good enough in the line of scrimmages that are going to take away that run. They're good enough to take away some of the things you want to do in the passing game and then begin to collapse that pocket defensively. Offensively, all right, once again, 260 rush yards given up by Colorado to TCU, who actually took their foot off the gas in terms of actually running the ball. Had they slowed that game down a little bit and continued to stick with the run game, you're talking about now taking more air out of the ball. You're taking more possessions away from that high-powered offense. Another thing I want to point out is Colorado has 5 or 6 like dogs on that team, right? I mean, guys that are at the wide receiver position. Obviously, they got the USF transfer, who is really, really good. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he was good. Their running back looked really good, catching the ball out of the backfield, not running it. Shedeur, ball out quickly, making good reads, and then Travis Hunter. My question is are you going to be able to play Travis Hunter for 129 snaps every game? 129 snaps is what he got, right? If he gets dinged up, if he gets tired, God forbid he gets out, for a game or two, what does that do to the composition of your team at this point? Colorado still does not have the depth to go next man up. So that's really my question. When you look at this schedule, is Nebraska going to get suckered into that shootout style ball with TCU that TCU played? No, they're not built that way. They're built more for the run. And I think that they can do some things that could give Colorado a really frustrating night. Not to mention Nebraska's in wounded animal mode right now, coming off of that close, hard-fought loss against Minnesota. And what I've seen out of Nebraska defensively is a damn sight better than what they saw against TCU. Colorado State, they'll win. They'll win Colorado State. They will. They'll absolutely. And they'll probably fucking drag them. Like, let's be honest, okay? They'll beat Colorado State at home. Then they got to take a trip to Eugene, Oregon. Okay? Look, check it out. They're going to lose that game. They're going to lose that game, and they're going to get beat up in the process. All right. I think this is where you start taking some of those nagging injuries, some of the physicality of playing a team like that on the road. I think that's where you start to get your depth tested a little bit. Okay. Maybe they do throw in the kitchen sink. And again, it's another day where Travis Hunter's taking 120 plus snaps. It's going to be tough on him, right? Then you play USC. USC, if they shore up a little bit defensively, make more splash plays, take some possessions away from Colorado, that's more of that high scoring affair back and forth. But I mean, look, Shedeur really impressed in a sample size of one game. There's a guy by the name of Caleb Williams on that USC squad that has impressed multiple times in those types of games. Very comfortable playing those kinds of games. So I think they do take a loss there. Then they got to take a trip to Arizona State. I do believe that that's more toss-up territory, given that you're coming off of 2 very hard-fought physical games that I think are going to be 2 very hard-fought physical losses. I don't know if they're 100% healthy going into that game. Then they got to go on the road. So that's toss-up territory for me. I do believe they'll beat Stanford. UCLA is a team that popped on film to me the other night. Looks like they finally figured out how to play some defense. Dante Moore at quarterback. The Pac-12 is so fucking loaded with quarterbacks right now. It's blowing my mind. But that is a kid that I think takes UCLA to another level. And on the road at UCLA, I think they take a loss there. Again, Oregon State's physicality and how fundamentally sound they are on both sides of the ball. I think they're going to drag, Colorado into like a slow composure game, like a pressure cooker game. I don't think they're really quite ready for that. I think I see them taking another loss. I do see them beating Arizona, but by this time deeper in the season, once again, it's the depth thing. And then at Washington State will be tough, and at Utah, I think they get dominated. So I personally think that it's a 4-8 season for Colorado, but silver lining, Coach Prime's going to always hit the silver lining on this one. That's 4 times the wins that they had last year. So it doesn't mean that it's a disaster season for Colorado if they go 4-8. I just don't fucking buy when people are like, they're going to be 9-3, 10-2. They're going to play for the Pac-12 championship. Why? Because they fucking beat a TCU team that replaced 23 or lost 23 people last year. Like 23 super seniors are not on that squad anymore. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm going to hold judgment on that one and stick to my guns on that one. It's a great win for Coach Prime and the momentum and all that, but it's not the most fucking impressive thing I've ever seen.
I can respect that. So I'm clicking over to week 2. We're about to get into that portion, but before we do, can you talk to me about my Hurricanes a little bit? We're the real Miami.
Yep, you are the real Miami. I can't believe that Miami of Ohio was even chirping like that. That was hilarious. Yeah, I got to tell you, Miami looked good. Again, it's against Miami of Ohio, but it's a Miami of Ohio team that is older, right? Again, a lot of these COVID seniors are still there. They had 9 returners on defense, and Miami just, in fact, got pretty much whatever they wanted to do in the run game, which is very encouraging to you if you're a Hurricanes fan, considering the talent that you have in the backfield. You kind of got a 3-headed monster, 4-headed, I think, in some cases, coming out of the backfield. And that if Miami is able to establish a line of scrimmage this year and do better in the run game, I think that takes some pressure off of Tyler Van Dyke in that passing game.
Right.
He was not great on the night. I'm going to say he was a little shaky. His QBR was not awesome. He did throw a very bad interception that I think against better teams would probably cost you. But flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. Honestly, that's probably got to be the most encouraging thing if you are a Miami fan, because there were times last year that Miami's defense was clown shoes. I mean, it looked like they were playing on ice skates out there. They were giving up all sorts of huge plays, bad miscommunications, and you did not see that, at least in this small sample size, out of the Hurricanes. They were flying around, establishing a new line of scrimmage, looking good. The Canes took care of business. They look competent doing it. My one hesitation, once again, with this Hurricanes program, though, and it goes back to Mario Cristobal, I think it's, once again, his hesitancy to really push the issue in the red zone. We did see them settle for field goals early against an inferior opponent, and it makes you really wonder if he's going to be that gun shy in some of these competitions, especially the one coming up this week with Texas A&M. Again, the rematch of last year played in Kyle Field. I really do feel that that conservative approach really cost the Canes last year.
I can see where you come from with that. A couple of times they should have either gone for it or been a little bit more aggressive downfield. Or
I think a little more aggressive on their second down calls. I think once again, that's setting you up for that future success to get that first down. So you would like to see a little bit more willingness to exploit some of those matchups on the early downs instead of waiting for an obvious passing down to try to make it happen.
That makes sense. So, I'm just going to scroll. Georgia, y'all play Ball State. I don't want to hear about it. Ohio State, Youngstown State. Oh, it sounds like a rivalry, but
no.
Penn State, Delaware, Notre Dame, NC State?
Notre Dame, NC State. Yeah. So this one will be, in my opinion, Notre Dame's sort of first eye test against a defensive front that's actually pretty solid. NC State's defensive front has been solid for quite a while now. They do a really good job at that program, putting out guys in the front seven. So it does make you wonder, if NC State can put Notre Dame's offensive line on their heels just a little bit to where they don't get whatever they want in the run game every single down, I think this is the game that you really see whether or not, Sam Hartman is juice worth the squeeze with this group of wide receivers. And I think Vegas understands that, and the football heads actually kind of understand that, because if you take a look again at this spread, it's at 7.5, right? And I think that, if it is a gutsier performance between Notre Dame and NC State in this one, I think that's really the key matchup to watch. How does NC State's defensive front deal with this Notre Dame offensive line? Flipping it to the other side of the ball, you've got Armstrong, former quarterback from Virginia, who is the quarterback at NC State now. And he's an athletic guy. He's got a very strong arm and a lot of football experience. I think that Notre Dame defense is very good. And NC State has had a tendency to kind of implode offensively over the last couple of years, unfortunately, under Dave Doran. So I think that the spread here is very generous, leaning towards NC State, because I just don't know what they're going to be able to do offensively to really hang around with Notre Dame for all 4 quarters. But I would not be surprised to see this one go into the half or maybe the early third quarter being a tight one.
So I'm going to stay away from this one. It seems I thought I was going to take that Notre Dame 7.5. I thought that would be a good bet, but I guess this isn't Navy.
No. It's I would take Notre Dame absolutely on the money line all day at 7.5 too. I think that's a reasonable enough spread to where I would probably take Notre Dame in the points in this one, because I really do think that they are very improved. I just don't think that it's going to be a 42-10 drubbing, that you've seen them do the last couple of weeks, because we're stepping up in competition now.
Okay. Stop me if you see anything interesting. I'm not really feeling Colorado, Nebraska. Well, we already talked about that one. You say Nebraska.
No, I didn't say Nebraska. I said that this one is a toss-up. And once again, it looks like the Vegas people are agreeing with me, because usually when you play at home, right, that is a field goal advantage. Okay, so it's baked in, right? So they're saying that because you have Colorado -3 by a field goal, right, they are saying that these two teams are even, and the only deciding factor is the fact that they're playing in Boulder.
Okay.
At least Vegas, at least the betting side of the house thinks so. Now, there was massive movement on this line, though, because last week Nebraska was favored by a touchdown. It has swung all the way to Colorado by a field goal, and the over-under set at 59.5. So once again, interesting stuff. I think it's more of a toss-up. It really comes down to which one of these teams can implement their game plan better. It's like a no shit Sherlock kind of quote. But if Nebraska wins this game, it's because they made it look a lot different than the game you saw between TCU and Colorado, kind of going back and forth in this basketball on turf, where they're just going back and forth, score. I think it's, once again, Nebraska taking the air out of the ball in this one. But I don't know. I'm staying away from it for right now. But if I had to make a money line pick, I'm going to go out on a limb. And once again, I'm going to show Coach Prime I don't believe. And I'll take Nebraska. To cover. I will take Nebraska to cover.
Okay.
Even though it's very slim, because Nebraska has made a living out of one-score games. And what I'm hoping is that this line continues to drift, where it's Colorado 3.5, Colorado 4, Colorado 4.5. You're getting in that neighborhood. You might want to consider a Nebraska cover.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, because they wouldn't, if it was 4, they wouldn't have covered this last game.
Right.
Before we move on, what do you think about Colorado moving up to 22?
I mean, they beat number 17, right? Off of the merit of beating a ranked team and being so early in the season. I don't hate it. I'm not mad at it. Once again, it's it's one of those
like
things that.
Show. This whole thing's like a TV show.
What are you talking about?
The Colorado just season everything.
Oh, well, I mean, it's involving Deion Sanders. Everything's a TV show with that guy.
I feel
you know,
I feel like the ranking is part of the ESPN's like, yeah, give him 22. Fuck it.
Yeah.
For a better story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the very first thing he was concerned with when he got there was just the outreach for the Colorado program and building the groundswell and building if he had not done such a dynamic job. The thing with Deion Sanders is he's a needle mover, man. Mm-hmm. He is a needle mover, right? If it was me who took over the Colorado program, okay, and then we just got this win over TCU, it would be like, oh wow, TCU really sucks. That would be the narrative. But instead, because it's Coach Prime, it's Colorado is awesome. And once again, it's the trajectory sky high, and everybody's going to jump on it. And you're never going to see more. I have never met a fucking Colorado fan in my life,
never.
And I could not turn around anywhere on the socials, anywhere on news, and not see something about Colorado posted up there. So he's done a fantastic job advocating for his program, but there is a flip side to that, right? So the media will build you up, and then they will bash you down, right, when you don't live up to expectations. And I think that is the line that Colorado's treading right now. It's all gravy in the Navy if they keep doing well. Let's say they go up to Oregon, let's say they go up to Eugene and they lose by 28, 35. They get smashed. All of a sudden, all of those vultures on the other side of that media line are just going to crank it the other way, and that's what's, that's just the nature of the business.
Yeah, it is, man. It's crazy. Clemson. Let's talk
Clemson.
Let's talk. Yeah, before we actually continue, we got FSU and LSU and Clemson, Duke. Let's speak about Clemson, Duke, because as a Miami fan, I'm still worried about Clemson because they're pissed off after this loss. And now I'm also worried about Duke. When it's like, should I be worried about Duke?
So you want to hear something kind of nuts, right? I sat down and I made a little top 5 ACC ranking in my notebook here after the conclusion of last night's game, right? So I've got Florida State at number 1 in the ACC right now based off of what we have seen.
Okay.
I've got North Carolina at 2 based off of what we have seen. A North Carolina team that brought
Tar Heels.
Yeah, the Tar Heels. Yeah, a team again that beat South Carolina in pretty convincing fashion. 9 sacks to go along with an additional 6 tackles for loss on top of that. I mean, that is a level of dominance in the defensive front that we have not seen out of UNC. And we were all waiting for these defensive recruits from UNC to pop. And I didn't think they were going to, because I was expecting it last year, which again was 2 years from when they were recruited. So here it is 3 years later, and it looks like they finally kind of showed up and decided to start playing at the level that they were recruiting defensively. And then the offense was still there, and missing Tez Walker, arguably one of their best receivers or best weapons on offense. So I've got North Carolina at 2. I have Miami at 3. I do. I'm convinced. I'm actually convinced that Miami is going to be able to be good enough to be a top 3 ACC team this year, because offensively they have an identity. I think that offensively they are much more competent this year, coming into this year. And then defensively, once again, from what I've seen thus far, again, only week 1 sample size, but there were some things that I really did enjoy seeing out of that Miami defense. And even when they played shitty teams last year, you saw it show up, like how bad that defense actually was. So huge improvement for them thus far. I think the good coordinator change and everything else. I've got Duke at 4, and I have Clemson at 5.
Wow.
I have sunk Clemson all the way down to the 5th best team in the ACC right now. And if they do not fix their offensive issues, which I don't know if they can, to be honest with you, because once again, they come in, they hire Garrett Riley to overhaul this offense, and the offense and the whole scheme and the performance of that scheme looks exactly the same as what you saw out of Clemson last year, right? So you sit there and you go, well, how can this be? I think it's because it's a personnel thing. I think because Clemson has been so isolated from the rest of the college football world, really refusing to dabble in the portal very much. They don't take a lot of transfers. They're not going to do the overhaul thing that a lot of other programs are doing with the quick fixes. It's going to take some time because I think they recruited personnel for one scheme, and that scheme is outdated. And now they have to go through the growing pains of trying to get this new scheme going. And if that's the best you can, and I understand Duke was a very solid defense, but if that is the best you can do offensively and with the turnover issues, once again, show me the playmakers on that offense. They're just not there. I don't see them. You can't hand the ball to Will Shipley 30 times a night and just expect to go out there and gut out these wins. And then the defense, I think, is taking a little bit of a step back, if I'm being honest. So I have them at 5.
You know, let me see, Clemson, Duke. Okay, so those are both ACC teams, but like, you know, obviously we got Georgia. I get it, but like the SEC didn't look too strong this week. Florida lost, South Carolina lost, LSU lost. What's going on?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. So Florida lost to a ranked Utah. LSU lost to a ranked Florida State. South Carolina lost to a ranked North Carolina. All right, let me throw some other stuff out here. Boston College lost to Northern Illinois. Texas Tech lost to Wyoming. Right?
That was crazy.
Illinois beat Toledo by 2. Purdue lost to Fresno State. Right? So as you can see here, there's Baylor. Baylor got crushed by Texas State, right? These are, I think, more embarrassing, to be honest with you, if we're talking about performance of conferences, right, than anything else. Like getting beaten and losing to group of 5 teams, the Pac-12 and the SEC right now are the only 2 conferences that don't have a group of 5 loss on their record. So yes, they did lose in 3 like head up big visibility matchups, but again, those are against ranked teams coming into this year, and teams that, to be quite honest with you, actually look pretty good. Utah is a good physical program and has been a good team out there in the Pac. I mean, they're 2-time consecutive back-to-back defending Pac-12 champions coming into this year. You know, UNC played for an ACC championship last year, looks improved this year, and then Florida State looks like a wagon. They really do. Like they also have surpassed my expectations coming into this year. I knew that Florida State was going to be good. I just thought once again they were going to be like that 9-3 type good. You know, like yeah, they're pretty good, but they're not champ. No, these guys can make the playoff. And I think these guys could win a playoff game, to be honest with you. I think that if that Florida State team shows up every single week, the one that just handed LSU its ass, that is a national title contender.
Yeah.
Being
that would be dope.
Florida
State versus Georgia.
That would be, you know, that would be awesome, actually. You know, bring it on. Like that'd be cool. I would love to see that matchup.
It would be like another Florida Georgia rivalry type stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to be Florida and Florida State, I'll tell you that. So
no. So that was UNC USC. Were some like couple things that stuck out to you on that one?
So North Carolina, South Carolina, yeah. Just once again, you know, what really stuck out to me was the fact that UNC defensively really did take a step forward. I mean, a huge step forward to what we've seen over the last couple of years with them. And just from the physicality standpoint, making negative plays, getting to Spencer Rattler, they sacked him 9 times. They sacked him 9 times. They didn't have like 9 sacks all last year. So I
That's
understand.
crazy.
Yeah, I understand that that South Carolina has issues on their offensive line. That was well documented coming into this year. But the fact of the matter is like UNC dominated that group of players, right? So they did, in my opinion, what a good defensive front would do to an offensive line that was mediocre. And they kicked their ass. They kicked their ass all night on that side of the ball. Really took it out on South Carolina. South Carolina still had some good chunk plays. They still made some decent like movement between the 20s, but couldn't finish. UNC bowed up in the red zone, and it definitely went a different way than I thought that one was going to go. So
I see that. So we talked about Miami and Texas A&M a little bit. What about this Alabama-Texas game next week? Should I bet on it or stay away from it? I don't think Texas got it. I don't think Texas got it at all.
So at a touchdown,
7 points.
Yeah, at a touchdown right now, I am actually leaning pretty hard to a Texas cover.
Whoa.
Yep, I am. There are things about this game as far as stylistically matching up to where I think that it will actually be a lower scoring affair. I think both of these defensive units are actually quite good. Texas's overall last year, a lot of people don't realize this, they were actually 18th in the nation in total defense. And as the season progressed and got towards the end of, at the end of the season, the defensive unit got incrementally better week in and week out. Looked really good, looked really efficient against, again, playing Rice. But, there are markers that can show you
right
when you turn on the tape, when you turn on the film and you look at the stat lines, you can see what good teams do to bad teams. So on that side of the ball, it was encouraging. You didn't see a lot of like the big play, blown assignment, missed tackles, bad angles that you saw out of Texas the last several years. That it looks like that's all been cleaned up. And to be honest, with the way that they have recruited over the last 2 cycles, with the players that they've also developed since being there, this looks very much a lot less like a Big 12 front seven and a lot more like an SEC caliber front seven. And you know what I mean by that. Big bodies, athletic up front. They know what they're doing. They make tackles. They're physical. So I think they can definitely stymie some of the things that Alabama wants to do. I just think at the end of the day, it's Alabama. It's in Tuscaloosa. Betting against Nick Saban doesn't typically go well. So as far as the winner and loser of this game, I have the Tide eking it out at home in a very tough physical contest with Texas. I think this one is more like the I think this one's more like a 23-17 kind of day, a lower scoring affair between these two teams, because I think both of these defensive units are very, very good. However, I would say that I wouldn't be shocked beyond imagination to see Texas actually pull this one out. And I think it, again, comes down to some of the matchup problems that they can give Alabama. They have a trio of wide receivers that are very good in Xavier Worthy, who's an absolute hot rod, straight down the field, deep threat. They've got Isaiah Nair, transfer from Wyoming a couple of years back, that is healthy now. He's sort of a do-it-all guy and a good possession, like keep drives alive kind of guy. And then A.D. Mitchell, the transfer from Georgia, again, who made all the big plays in that game against Ohio State and got the game-winning touchdown. He's a 50-50 ball nightmare to go up against, especially in the red zone. So when you have multiple tools like that in the passing game, as long as the protection on the offensive line holds up, I think Quinn Ewers is going to have some opportunities to utilize some of those weapons. So I wouldn't be surprised if Texas pulled it out. I'll take them to cover. I still am leaning towards Alabama on the win at home, though.
Okay. I think I'll stick with Alabama on that one. Let's see. I don't want to keep you too much longer. Let's see. So, okay. This is the top 25 list. They don't got anything too crazy, but is there anything? So, this is my favorite part of it right here. Shoot me my 3, man. First, actually, I do have one more question. Do you think Vegas picked up on the over-under yet? I see Georgia Ball State 52.5. Let's say like Notre Dame NC 51. Colorado Nebraska 59.5. I might be picking a lot of unders this week.
Yeah, well, again, it comes down to it. The under cashes in that one between Nebraska and Colorado. I think if Nebraska is able to slow the tempo of that game down, if both of those teams are playing with tempo and Colorado's getting, 10 possessions, I think that the over probably wind up cashing in that one. So kind of hard to tell. You're not sure exactly, what Nebraska is going to bring to the table for this particular matchup now that they have some tape on Colorado. So,
that's true.
Not exactly sure with that one. I am very much in wait and see with that matchup between Nebraska and Colorado. I still have it, like I said, at a toss up. But if that line starts creeping hard in Colorado's favor as more of the money comes in before Saturday, you might want to consider a Nebraska cover.
I hear that. So give me my 3. I'm ready to write them down real quick. What are we looking at, man? Where are we at?
All right. Well, let me see here. So, give me a couple here. All right. So let me see. What do we have for Georgia and Ball State? No, I don't really want to touch that one. Once again, Kirby kind of scares me with the style points and the spread sitting at 42. So like, not exactly sure about that one. Let's go. Let's see here. Notre Dame. I'm going to say give me Notre Dame in the points. I'm going to say give me Notre Dame in the points. I'll take Notre Dame at 7.5. Okay. Again, I just don't know what NC State is going to be able to really do offensively. And even if it's a slower offensive day for the Irish, like let's say, instead of scoring 40 some odd points, it's more like 24, maybe 28. I don't see NC State scoring more than 20 points on this Notre Dame defense. So like I could see a 28-20 kind of day. And that would be like if things went wrong for Notre Dame. I mean, like from a talent perspective, they are a much more talented team than what you have going up against NC State. But if you click on the matchup itself, it'll also give you that football power index predictor of, who they think is going to win and all that other stuff. And I would be very shocked if it wasn't heavily in favor of Notre Dame. I'm thinking maybe 80% probably for Notre Dame right now.
I think I just clicked on the wrong one. Yep. It's moving around too much. Okay, let's back up here. Gamecast.
Yep, I think that's the one. There you go. 78%. So almost 80%, in favor of Notre Dame. And once again, that football power index is fairly accurate for calling these kinds of things. Fairly, there's definitely the anomalies out there. What that doesn't take into account, once again, is like the coaching, the culture, injuries. It doesn't take those kinds of things into account. It just takes like pure roster talent sort of into account and how well they've been playing recently. So
okay.
So yeah, we got Notre Dame and the points on that. I don't really want to touch Utah until I know Cam Rising's healthy, but I do feel like they will smash on Baylor. Because I don't think Baylor is a very good team right now. We've got Troy and Kansas State at 16.5 with an over under of 50.5. I feel good about Kansas State and the points in this one. Troy is not nearly the defensive team that they were last year, and I don't know if Vegas has caught on to that just yet. Definitely saw in week 1 a much leakier version of this Troy defense than we were used to seeing, and they have to take the trip to Manhattan to play Kansas State. Again, a team that is quietly one of the better teams in college football and brought a lot back off of that squad that they had last year and a returning quarterback situation. So I do like them to score points. and enough points and have enough separation from Troy to get a 16.5 cover here.
I wanted to go to Kansas State out of high school. I liked them a lot, and I felt like I could have balled out there.
Kansas State's a good program, man. They're a good program. They've been around and been a good, solid program for a long time. I went to football camp there when I was young. It was fun.
Texas at 4.5. That's good for Texas A&M.
So Texas A&M sitting at 4.5 in this one.
I gotta bet on Miami in this one, but
so the over/under they have sitting at 51, which if you break that down, that is literally 25.5 points per squad. And it makes you wonder if we're going to see another version of what we saw out of Texas A&M and Miami last year. I think if this one hits the under, it's because Miami has success again with playing that balanced brand of ball, establishing that line of scrimmage and getting some success in the run game. And Miami is favored in this competition, at least by the matchup predictor. The betting money, however, again, residing with the Aggies. And I think a big reason for that is if you take a look at the passing stat lines between the two quarterbacks, Connor Wegman going off last week for 5 touchdowns, the downfield passing attack. I was at that game. It looked really much improved over last year. So I think that might be the biggest disparity there that you're looking at. And then, Texas A&M's defensive front, how do they match up against this Miami offensive line and them running the football? So given Coach Cristobal's conservative nature, again, in the red zone, that has shown no signs of really changing anytime soon. I would not be surprised if the under 51 cashed in this one, as you have two teams that I think are going to play maybe a little bit conservatively, a little bit timid, because they know what's on the line for both of these programs. Because the loser of this game, once again, is in a position where it can really affect your season, kind of the trajectory of it. So, and I think they're acutely aware of that here in College Station and in Coral Gables. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see more of a defensive slugfest between these two teams. So I would say watch the line at 51. And if I had to lean a certain direction right now, I would probably lean the under.
Okay. So also talk to me a little bit about your Texas A&M experience.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. It was awesome. Got to take the family to their first experience in Kyle Field in Aggieland. Wow. It really was quite awesome. Having it wasn't quite a packed house. It was close. I mean, it's New Mexico. Like, people weren't going to show out in the kind of numbers that they would for Alabama. But it was still close to 100,000 people there. Wow. And just the experience of it, the scale of the stadium, so big. And you look around, all you can see is just people and movement and sound and noise. And it was really kind of neat, watching that whole thing and getting to go into the different places. I had an all access pass. I went up in the press box. I could go anywhere I wanted, John, anywhere I wanted in the whole stadium. I could go there.
My boy's that ESPN halftime show,
Yep.
Awesome.
I should have just crashed that. I should have just gone in it. But no, I went to the student section. I went and hung out with the Corps cadets a little bit. I went and joined my wife down there. I got to work with coordinating the flyover, which was really neat. Got to live stream that on the Any Given You Facebook group, and went into live streaming certain portions of the game too, just to show people, the atmosphere and everything else. And it was really good, man. They got a resounding win. It was awesome. My wife had a little too much to drink. She fell down the fucking stairs.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. But it was an experience, man. It was a good time for a first game there in Kyle Field. So hopefully not the last. I don't think it will be.
That's awesome, man. That's really dope. So you get to go to all the games for free?
No, there's still a ticket system and all that, but but yeah, it's not hard. Let's put it that way. There's tickets available, you know.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's another one for you. How about this? How about Oregon cover? Take Oregon to cover.
Against Texas Tech?
Yep. Take Oregon to cover.
For a touchdown. Wow. Yeah, Texas Tech is not the same old Texas Tech. Everything else is how you feel about Stanford USC? When, like you said, these teams, when did they play and I didn't see them? When did they play again?
Which ones? What you talking about? Were you talking about the Trojans?
USC and
Notre Dame?
Notre Dame played 2 games.
Yeah, they played this Saturday. So on August 26th, that was week 0, and then week 1 was here. So some teams play an extra game early.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But as you can see, like on the stat line, like USC, you know, starts off 56-28. Definitely some things flashing defensively that were concerns, right? I didn't see the tape versus Nevada, but 66-14. So 10 more points on offense, half the points on defense. So, you know,
better in both directions.
True. Also, I don't think it was as good as an opponent as well. Like, I think Nevada's a couple steps down from San Jose State, as crazy as that sounds to say.
Wow. I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, man, I don't want to keep it as long as I did last time, but man, I really enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed doing these with you. Last thing that I got, after week 1, how's the Heisman race looking?
Well, okay, so I'm going to make a bold prediction, and I'm going to say that the Heisman comes out of the Pac-12, first off, because it is just so loaded with killers. And once again, like, the Heisman has become, unfortunately, I don't like this. I think any true, like, fundamental football fan doesn't really enjoy the fact that the Heisman Trophy really is a quarterback award, right? And we've seen that year after year after year. But there are
running back.
It was for a long time, yeah. And then fundamentally, some things have changed about the game, and it's become more of a quarterback-driven award. What'd you say?
That makes sense because it used to be a power eye, your Barry Sanders and all that stuff. Now it is more of a Patrick Mahomes type of S.
Yep. That's what people like to see. They like to see you throw it 50 times a night and all this, crap. I don't personally really dig that brand of football. Like, that's 7-on-7 shit to me. I like to see dudes getting hit in the fucking mouth personally. But so I will say that I think it comes out of the Pac-12 for sure at this point in time after 1 week or week 1, because it is just so loaded with quarterback talent. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've got Caleb Williams. You've got Bo Nix. You've got Michael Penix. You've got Cam Rising. You've got Cameron Ward. You've got Jaden DeLora. You got this guy, Shedeur Sanders, who just passed for 510 yards. So I don't think that his team is going to win enough games for him to win the Heisman, but I think he might have a very good year because you still got to win the games too. Like, we saw, who did we see win it? Oh, Lamar. Lamar won the Heisman. Louisville was 9-3. I think that's about the floor right there. You got to have about 9-10 wins by the time the season pans out. Otherwise, you're just not really going to be in consideration. So you got to have the success there too. But man, that is a slate of quarterbacks right there. That's pretty crazy, right? So I would say that Caleb Williams, still, I mean, he's still just tossing like half a dozen touchdowns every game. So until somebody really balls out at a higher level than that consistently, and he's going to get his numbers in that Lincoln Riley system. And I think USC is going to have the number of requisite wins that we could be looking at our very first, provided he stays healthy, our very first 2-time Heisman winner since Archie Griffin at Ohio State. So we could be looking at that. But I mean, Jordan Travis at FSU, right? Jordan Travis at FSU had a very nice game. And if that team continues the kind of progression and he continues to have numbers and put it up in a big way, I mean, we could see him crush. as well. So I would say that, in my opinion, I think that the Heisman winner resides somewhere in the Pac-12, but it could be the ACC as well, depending on wins.
Okay. On the FSU team, my favorite player is that receiver Johnny something or something
Wilson,
like that.
Johnny Wilson.
He's, what is he, 6'7"? And he's really fast, but he dropped 2 passes last game. But like next year, I could see him winning the Heisman. I'm gonna mark this down.
I'm not sure if Johnny Wilson is a senior or not. He might be. I think he's a junior draft eligible. I think he's eligible for the draft. I think he's going to leave.
He's a sophomore. I thought last year he was a freshman.
Maybe. I don't know. I'll have to check into that. I'm not exactly sure. The college football guy doesn't know, huh?
Let me see. What's his name? Johnny
Wilson.
FSU.
His game reminds me a little bit of Mike Evans.
6'7".
Yeah, big body, big hands, little prone to the drop, which is crazy. But
Went
yeah,
to
one of
his high school, huh? I didn't know that. So he's like a rich person already. Let's see. He's 22.
Yeah, so he's a draft eligible junior probably at this point.
He started at Arizona State, maintained a redshirt on the season. So he's a redshirt sophomore, I guess.
Yeah, redshirt sophomore. So he's eligible for the draft this year.
Yeah.
Okay. And I would assume that if FSU has like a very successful year, like I would assume that they probably are going to, based off of the empirical evidence so far. That's
crazy. He's went to Pacoima neighborhood, Calabasas. I was seeing if he had like a dad that played or something like that, but it doesn't show, so it must not be. But Mike, I really appreciate you coming through. Like I said, sorry about last episode, but man, this was a great episode, and I'm excited for this week. And the 100 push-ups. We bet that on Colorado USC.
No, I think we put that on. What did you say in the chat, man? It was another game. It was Yes, it was Colorado USC. That was the one. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. We'll see, dude. We'll see, man. We'll see. I know your ass did the 100 push-ups last year because you didn't believe in the Aggies at home. So.
Oh man, that one hurt. That one hurt. But this is gonna be a lot closer, I think. But
we'll see. Honestly, man, who knows? The style matchup for both of those teams, like the over/under for that game, better be set at like 80. Because they both want to play fast, they both like to score, they both like to do those things. I don't know. I don't know, but wouldn't it be something? Wouldn't it be something? Wouldn't it be hilarious?
Mm-hmm.
So,
but all right, man, I really appreciate you. And everybody, please go check out Any Given You. Go follow them, like them, subscribe. Everybody, if you listen to the end of this, if you watch this whole thing, go follow both of our pages.
Absolutely. Yep. Flagler Weekly is a great follow. Does a lot of stuff there for the people in Flagler County as far as getting out the exposure and getting the word of all that stuff. And not even just Flagler County. When you got one of Flagler County's sons out here in Texas, doing moonlighting as a college football podcaster, soldier by day, this guy makes sure that he gives me an opportunity to come on and talk and give exposure and everything else like that. And I certainly appreciate your time, John. So thank you.
Man, I appreciate you as well too. But thanks, man. I'm about to end this right now. We're gonna have a couple little minute talk and then we're gonna end it. But everybody, peace out. Thank you. And